Hello, fellow griever. This is the Leftover Pieces Suicide Loss Conversations podcast, and I am Melissa, your host. This week, you have found yourself with me for one of my shorter, solo, down the rabbit hole episodes. Here, I take you with me on a journey of sorts, through thoughts in my own griefy mind. Some days, I may tackle topics as if I am in Alice's shoes, slaying the Jabberwocky. And on others, I may end up in my own pool of tears. Or I may just go a bit sideways and paint the proverbial roses red. But I always promise an adventure. So let's dive down the rabbit hole and see just what sorts of madness we might discover together. I am glad you have joined me, because while I do know how lonely this grief is, I also believe we needn't be alone. Welcome. Hey guys, and welcome to a new season, a new year, and new episode of the Leftover Pieces Suicide Loss Conversations podcast. And boy, I have a lot to say this year, which feels appropriate that I would start this season by talking about where I've been, because I know that it was, I think, just before Thanksgiving when I released the most recent episode of the Leftover Pieces. And this I know this is the longest break that I've taken in the podcast since I started it in November of 2020. So maybe it was my 4-year break. Maybe it was time. If you know anything about podcasting, and I'm assuming a few of you probably do, you know that there's a thing called pod fade that happens sometimes to podcasters. And it would be okay if I could claim that that's all that had happened. I'm sure there was an element of that at bay, but really it was just I needed a break. I needed a rest. And it wasn't just a rest from the podcast, you guys. It was I needed to rest from life. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir. I know that I'm preaching to others like myself who have experienced the greatest loss in one of the most traumatic ways that people can experience loss. So that doesn't fall short on me at all. But as most of you probably know, I am not brand new to this grief journey. I lost my son Alex to suicide in 2016, August 7th to be exact, of 2016. And so, unfortunately, or in many ways now, fortunately, because it is easier to carry, I do not carry this like an early griever anymore. So it isn't the overwhelm of grief in and of itself that was what was weighing me down. It was just life. It was life from a personal family issue that had been going on throughout the course of the year. And I don't, for reasons of protecting the privacy of the family members involved, I'm not going to discuss the family issue itself. But I will just say that it was all-encompassing, and I did the best I could to keep up with everything throughout the year. But by the time the holidays loomed and this situation was starting to resolve itself, I found myself kind of overwhelmed in that, well, we'll just call it kind of the melt that occurs after we've made it through something really hard. It seems like at that point we should have pure elation or relief. And there is an element of that occurs, but we also have to get through the ups and downs of the emotions. And much of what occurred with this family situation involved, my grief, trauma triggers from my past, not just from my grief, but from my past in other areas of my life. And so when all of these things are, come together and you're in survival mode, which was what I felt like I was for a lot of the year, you don't always realize that after it's resolved, you're still going to kind of be riding that roller coaster out of the situation. And so you will have moments of relief, but you will also have heavy moments of reflection, heavy moments of anxiety release, heavy moments of, now living outside of a stressful situation. We often want to default to that stress or the codependence that may be occurring inside of that stress. And so we don't know what to do without it at first, or, our body's on auto. And so I had a lot of that decompression to do over what's already a stressful time of year of the holidays. So having made it through the other side, I will tell you that I have come into 2025 as pumped as somebody can be and be a grieving mom. So I feel like 2025 holds great optimism, and I feel like there are great things on the horizon this year. And I strangely, intuitively don't feel like that's just for myself. I don't feel like it's just for the leftover pieces and all the things that are going to be occurring here, but I do feel it collectively for the world. So I hope that feeling comes to bear, and some of that crosses over into your world, and you can feel a little bit of hope and optimism as the year starts as well. I do also understand deeply the double-edged sword that comes with a new year. We so deeply want the holidays to be over when we're in the midst of them, and yet New Year's Eve strikes and a new panic sets in of not wanting that year to leave behind our loved one, either for the first time, if this was the year you lost your loved one, or even in subsequent years, just one more year. And as the years have gone by, I personally have chosen to look at New Year's as a way of becoming 1 year closer to Alex. And that's not said in a dooms way, as in, I hope I pass soon, because I don't hope I pass soon. I haven't hoped to that for many, many years. I would like to live a long, healthy life and enjoy my family and everything this world has to offer, and the opportunities to shine Alex into the world and all of the things that life offers. So I've chosen to look at it as 1 year closer to the one thing we all do, which is eventually we all cross over. And at that point, I will be reunited with my son. So I just kind of look at it as stepping towards Alex, because that's where he is now. He's in spirit. So I'm stepping towards Alex in spirit, while celebrating the life that he had here on earth. And so this is a small down the rabbit hole today to say hello, to welcome in 2025, to hope that you'll come along with me on this journey this year and experience all of these things together. I do want to let you know what's in store for the leftover pieces, not only in the immediate future, but going forward. So I'm going to ease back in. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it in two different ways. I'm going to ease back in with a weekly Down the Rabbit Hole episode through the month of January. And that's going to come out somewhere around the first of the week. I've decided to, for myself, to relieve some pressure off of myself, to stop saying it will be Sunday. It's going to be sometime in the first couple of days of the week. So sometime between Sunday and Tuesday. And I am going to also be releasing what I'm going to call a daily dose. And so every single day in January, and as I say that, I'm recording on January 2nd to release this on January 3rd. So I will be releasing January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, all on the 3rd. And then starting on January 4th, there will actually be a brief, like we're talking 5-minute type of an episode called the Daily Dose that I am going to release every day. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that right now. I'm going to tell you, and then there will be the very first episode titled January 1st. We'll explain it just a little bit more. And then from there on out, it will just be the 5-ish minutes a day, sharing that little daily nugget. And what I'm going to do is something I've actually wanted to do for some time. I am an overthinker at heart. I tend to overanalyze things. And while I've gotten better at that, this is one area with this particular project that I'm about to undertake for the month of January that I haven't ever done, but I'm going to listen to that nudge this year and do it. So I don't know if any of you listening know what Stoicism is. And I'm talking about the art of ancient Stoicism from Greek philosophy, not being Stoic as in somebody who is like staunch and straight and stiff and, to say that looks like a Stoic person. That type of Stoic is like the lowercase s definition. I'm talking the uppercase s definition of Stoicism, which is a discipline and a philosophical movement, if you will, that on one hand I have been a student of for a good part of my life. And I say that because as long as I can remember, I have considered myself to be, and I'm going to use air quotes that you can't see, but a realist. I've considered myself to be pretty grounded and down to earth, pretty matter of fact. And again, feel like I always try to root things in what feels real, not, I'm not a fantasy kind of based person. I'm more cut and dry, more science-minded, if you will. I'm trying to offer some explanation here. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper, obviously, in the very first episode of these daily nuggets that I'm going to be doing. But that's what the daily nuggets are for. What I'm actually going to do is every day in January, I'm going to read from a book by an author called Ryan Holiday and his co-author, Stephen Hanselman. And it's from a book called The Daily Stoic. It's a repeatedly #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller. It is the subtitle of the book, The Daily Stoic, is 366 Meditations on Wisdom, Perseverance, and the Art of Living. And it features new translations of Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius's writings. This is like it says, 300. It's a full year worth of daily Stoic reading. So it's a little bit from the authors and a reading from one of the ancient Stoics. And I will explain, like I said, I will explain Stoicism a little bit better in the beginning episode titled January 1st. But what I want to say here is why would I choose this on a grief podcast, a suicide loss grief podcast? Well, it's because I believe, just like the article that I'm going to reference in the first episode, is that the benefits of adopting a Stoic mindset to grieving is numerous. Like there's so many benefits. Stoicism at its definition, or Stoic philosophy, if you would rather call it that, is an ancient Greek philosophical means that can offer numerous benefits in work and life. It provides us with tools to navigate challenges. It enhances resilience and achieves personal and professional growth by using it. And I have found that to be true. I have found that leaning into my Stoic nature has served me in so many areas of this grief journey. It's helped me manage stress and anxiety. It's helped me focus, which is kind of the main focus of Stoicism. It helps you focus on what you can control versus what you can't. It helps us accept reality. It helps us regulate our emotions, practice self-reflection. It helps us practice mindfulness and living in the present moment. And it honestly helps us even develop resilience if we're not already very resilient by nature. And so as you can probably see, just from these examples, Stoicism, while it was something I knew of in principle before, since losing Alex, it actually came to light a few years after losing him that what I was calling realism and what I was considering me being a matter-of-fact person was Stoicism. And so at that point, I started studying ancient Stoicism and started listening to the Daily Stoic podcast. And it was a couple of years after that I actually introduced it to my husband, because he kind of wondered what I was looking at, what I was listening to, and I felt like it could benefit him greatly. And since then, my husband has done a really deep dive. He has most of Ryan Holiday's books. He has done the Daily Stoic journaling through a full year. And I have encouraged him to join the Daily Stoic group that meets. And so he may do that this year. But it just is such a, I'm trying to think of the word, cathartic way to go about living life for me. It has helped me immensely. It still helps me immensely. And I'm not saying that it's for everyone, but I feel like the nuggets that I'm going to share daily can only benefit us and, help us be resilient after loss, help us be rooted in mindfulness and things that we can control, which are all things that I talk about in the leftover pieces all the time anyway. So I thought, as I'm rebooting the podcast, as I'm getting ready to launch the new one, because yes, when I put everything on hold, I also put launching the new one on hold as well. It's sitting there ready to launch. I'm just waiting for this magical moment to occur in the next few days to a week when I push the launch button on the new podcast, which is called Let's Really Talk About Suicide, somewhere between complicated and controversial. Yes, it's a little different style podcast. You'll be able to see that when it comes out. It will not be for everybody that is in early grief, but it is one meant to provoke thoughts and bring about change. This podcast is going to remain the same. It's going to be there for all survivors of suicide loss, as well as loved ones that are supporting them, and even mental or medical health professionals that are working with suicide loss survivors or trying to learn more about suicide loss and suicide loss survivors. So for January, to recap, you're going to get a daily short podcast that comes out with a Stoic reading from the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. And then weekly, I will put out a Down the Rabbit Hole. This will be the only one that's explanatory like this. The others are going to be more what you have been used to in the past, which is me talking about grief and loss in my own journey. And I have some, exciting things I do want to talk about this month. And then starting in February, we're going to go back to the format that feels like Don't Fix It If It's Not Broken, where I alternate between Down the Rabbit Hole episodes and episodes with guests. So I look forward to kicking that off in February. I have some amazing guest interviews, conversations to bring you. And then that other new podcast that's going to launch, my plan is to release it every other week. And it is a co-host format. I have 3, and hopefully a 4th will join soon, regular rotating co-hosts. And we're going to have dynamic conversations, and there will be opportunities for a call-in line to leave messages for that one if that is something that resonates with you. And there will probably be a few interesting new things happen this year in the Leftover Pieces podcast. But as of right now, I'm just going to start doing the reintroduction and the daily nugget in January, and then I will re-release or start releasing conversations again the first part of February. So I think I'm going to wrap this one up today and just tell you guys that I'm so glad to be back. Just because I needed to pause doesn't mean I didn't miss it, and doesn't mean I'm not thinking about you constantly, because I am. I am so grateful that you take the time to listen. I'm so grateful that this is a space that you find that is helpful. And like I always say, please take what serves you and leave the rest. There's never a way for everything that somebody shares to service 100%, but I hope that there's enough in here that you find it helpful on your journey. And as always, I would love to hear from you. I'd love any suggestions that you have. If you have anybody you'd like me to talk to this year or you think would make a good guest for the leftover pieces, please have them reach out to melissa@theleftoverpieces.com. And if you haven't been to my website recently, please do go there. There is a retreat happening in a few weeks for moms who've lost children by suicide. It is booked in full. It is completely full and sold out, as was the one this past July. There is a new one posted for the end of April for moms who've lost a child by suicide. And I expect to announce several more still this year, retreat-wise. If you are a mom who's lost a child by suicide and are interested in making sure your child is remembered and that their legacy is out there in this world, please reach out to me about the Legacy Project. As of right now, March 5th is my only start date this year, and there are several spots already taken, and it's a limited seat opportunity, so please reach out right away if you're interested in having a no obligation conversation about that project. And until we talk next time, griever, please take good care of yourself. Please be mindful as you go into this year that this is hard and you need to allow yourself a lot of extra grace and space as you navigate these dark and stormy waters after suicide loss. Until next time, talk soon. So we'll conclude here for today, but I just wanted to say a few things before you go. If you're new to the podcast and have not listened to the very first episode called Intro Episodes Start Here, all the way back at the beginning of season 1, I would encourage you to do so that you know what to expect from the leftover pieces, because I do have several different styles of episodes that I record and we do release weekly, almost all of the time. So I hope that you will come back often to join us in this community of suicide loss survivors. If you have not already, also, I would encourage you to check out theleftoverpieces.com, where you can find and have access to all of the things that I currently offer. Some of those things are online Zoom support groups, links to my books, educational opportunities that I'm adding all the time, as well as different downloadables and resources for all suicide loss survivors. And if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, or you'd just like to connect with me for any other reason, you can do it through the website as well. So until next time, I just want to remind you that I know how lonely this grief is, but you don't have to be alone. Talk soon.